All right, good day here at E-MTB Review because I'm going to give you my long-term impression on these very fancy wheels from Spinergy, the MXX-e. And I've been through a few bikes with these wheels and many hundreds of miles, and I'm going to tell you pros, cons, and whether it makes a difference, with that money you're spending. Okay, mountain bike wheels. What do they need? They need to have a strong rim, take all those hits of the many descents that you're gonna do. They need to stay true. The spokes need to be sturdy and not get bent out of shape when a rock or stick hits them. And finally, the hub, it needs to be able to withstand that pressure of your legs and of that 500 watt, 85 Newton meter motor, right? Being totally honest, I have a lot of high-end wheels here in the stable, and if I had one complaint, it's that I can't really tell the difference between one or the other. Just being honest. When a bike is 50 to 55 pounds, whether a wheel is $3,000 or $2,000 or whatnot, they're all pretty similar in the way they perform. So the good news is these wheels are different. They ride different. And I'll tell you all about it. So what are they? They're the latest from Spinergy MXX-e. They have the MXX for normal mountain bikes. They have a gravel wheel set, very successful. They have wheel sets for wheelchairs. And then motocross, they put these spokes on, motocross bikes, motorcycles. And so they have a deep foundation in multi-sports and a lot of technology. So at the core, they have these fibers in these spokes, and then they put a plastic sheath over it to protect it. So these are not the spokes itself. This is just a covering, but they're very thick. On the e-bike version, it's not super tight. If you I tried to pluck them, they're not making a sound. So and then what they did with the e-bike version, they made the spokes thicker, more fibers. They made the hubs wider, that way the spokes are shorter, and so they're a burlier edition of their MXX. They're basically no fuss wheels. They're true as the day I got them, and the bottom line is they are smooth. They are smooth. So you'll be shocked every time I ride this bike. This is my Score 4060 LT long travel, and every time I ride it, I'm all like, wow. Did these shocks get tuned, or is my pressure too low? And I do check my tire pressures every time. My shocks I don't check as often, but I'm like, wow, is this a push technology rear shock? It feels like butter. It feels like butter. I mean, it's really like noticeable. As long as you're fairly sensitive to these things, it feels like your shocks are a little bit lower. Maybe 5-10 psi, and it feels like your tires are a little bit lower, maybe 2 psi lower than what you normally run. So, if you've ever come across a very highly tuned fork, and shock, or like a coil, that's what it feels like. And then it takes me like a second, like, oh, it's those wheels. It's those wheels. They're like butter. So basically, when you pluck a spoke, it makes a sound like a guitar and vibrates. These, they don't vibrate. They don't make a sound. They make nothing. A stick hits it, a rock hits it. They're like, what was that? So that is the bottom line with these wheels. That's what makes them different from the rest. I'm not sure about the durability because I'm not big enough to really stress them, but they ride differently. So. And they're stiff enough, You think with spokes like that are not as tight, it'd be loose, but they're holding their line. But really, the shock and vibration are being taken away by this technology. And so, what does it translate to? Like I said, like a few less psi on your tires or your shock, but you have all the support of the shock and the tire and the sidewall support because your PSIs are normal, but you got that damping. And let me tell you, it makes way more difference than going from an aluminum frame to a carbon frame. That's how significant it is. So I wouldn't even bother with a carbon frame if you had the choice and you treasure your extra $2,000. Maybe spend it on the wheels. So that's the cool thing about the wheels. So taking a lot of hits. I've left it under the sun. This bike, you know, it hasn't faded. $1,850 and about 2,000 grams for the mullet. They have Hadley internals in the hub, so you know should be, or Hadley base, so should be pretty strong. Had no problems whatsoever. 108 points of engagement on this, and you know they have quite an elaborate line of wheels. So you know, Spinergy wheelchair, I kind of understand it now. Like if you're in a wheelchair, you feel every crack on the surface. Wheels like this would definitely help. It less fatigue. So what it's going to do for you is more control. You know, if you have a little less pressure, more control, less bouncing around. Remember the old NV wheels that were just so hard? Super trick, super cool decals, but they were hard to control. On like a Downieville, a straightaway, that's a lot of deflection. These things, they hardly deflect, and then when it comes to cornering, it's able to deliver more traction. And finally, the final effect, hard to judge, but seems to be less fatigue on your hands and on your contact points. So pretty cool. If you're light like me, or if you have a mid-powered bike, the MXX is $200 at $1,650, and then quite a bit lighter, 1,700 grams. They also have a gravel version. It's not a new company, and they've been around forever, maybe for a reason that they have long staying power. Pretty good technology that they have here. And then stay tuned, because on my next reviews, I also have the super cool atomic wheels with bird spokes. So I'm going to review that separately. I'm going to compare it to this. Also, I know you guys want to hear about my favorite tire, the Continental Crypt Total, right here in the front. Just a mind-blowing tire. Thanks a ton, everybody.